Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to a new video. Today we'll be talking about proof of time versus proof of stake. Guys, what's going on? We'll review everything to do with proof of time versus proof of stake, which one's the most efficient and which one are we likely to see in the future more. Guys, if you don't want to miss any of that important information, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and make sure you show your support by checking us out at ptgr.ag, a free consultation package. Guys, let's jump straight into the video and let's not waste any more time. What is proof of time and what is proof of stake and how do they compare? Well, blockchain uses a consensus algorithm that basically chooses who gets to verify the transaction on the network. But what are the differences between the two? The consensus algorithm are processes where validators are also known as nodes or miners within the blockchain networks agrees on the current state of the network, and this mainly entails of agreeing on whether a transaction submitted by validators is authentic, if it is fraudulent or inaccurate transaction are rejected by the network, assuming that all validators are acting fairly with no malicious intent. The validators are rewarded with cryptocurrencies for submitting accurate and authentic transaction, while the malicious actors are penalized depending on the consensus protocol. For example, in proof of work, networks like Bitcoin, which are the validators, have to spend energy via expensive hardwares to validate the transaction, and if successful, they gain new token. If they act maliciously, they gain nothing and lose come from the wasted energy used in submitting the fraudulent or inaccurate transaction. In proof of stake, however, the user stakes token and receives additional token for submitting authentic transaction while losing a portion for submitting a wrong one. In proof of time, however, protocols have the principle is the same, while validators receives additional token for submitting authentic transaction, but loses token for submitting inaccurate one or malicious transaction. While proof of stake and proof of time share some similarities, they are two very different protocols. And do you know which they are? Well, share your comments in the description if in the comments if you already knew this. But proof of stake is a consensus algorithm that basically works by users staking their tokens as collaterals by locking them into a smart contract. And once that's done, the system then works by selecting a validators, also known as miners or nodes, to proceed by a block of transaction. And the validators has to validate the transaction inside the block to ensure that there's no inaccurate information contained within. What happens next is that the validator submits the block to the blockchain, and if the block has been validated correctly, then they receive additional token as a reward. If a validators behave in a malicious or lazy manner, usually by submitting incorrect transaction, they lose a portion of the token they have staked. So it's sort of like like if you work hard, you get rewarded. If you don't get at all. And that's the point of kind of proof of stake in an easy manner, is that the validators who stake a higher amount of tokens are more likely to be selected to verify transaction. Staking a higher amount of token also earns the validator additional rewards, since they typically earn a fixed percentage based on the blockchain network. As an example, Ethereum, who works under proof of stake 2.0, validators currently earn 4.2% on their token, and validators are also more likely to be selected if they have staked their token for a long period of time. Becoming a validator in the POS system is open to everyone, but the barrier to entry is high due to the popularity of the protocol. With a large number of nodes on POS blockchain, the more nodes a network has, the larger amount of token a user will need to stake to become a validator. Due to this, the staking pools, which are run by validators, are typically used by an average crypto users who wants to stake their tokens, and in this system, a user deposits their token into a pool, and the token are staked by validators on the token's owner's behalf. Now, the difference is that proof of time is a consensus algorithm that uses a voting system to choose the network validators and focuses on how long a network validators has been active within a network, as well as their reputation. The protocol was developed by Analog, and it's based on delegated proof of stake, which is a modified version of POS, and it's, in my opinion, more efficient than POS because proof of time refers to its ledger as a time chain and works by using a ranking score and verifiable delay function known as a VDF and stake tokens to determine who gets to add a new transaction to the ledger. The ranking system then brings and works by giving a score to a network validators based on their age and past performance, and the validators then receives a higher score for being trustworthy and being active within the network for a longer time. Staking as a larger amount of token also makes it more likely that a validator will be selected. POT is similar to DPoS since users on the network vote to decide which delegate can validate the next block. However, there are some differences, mainly in the voting process, with POT having multiple voting stages. During the first voting stage, the validators, known as time electors, submit a block that contains the data including transaction to be added to the time chain. If the block is accepted, the block is validated with all transactions within the block being processed. And how the two consensus protocols compare? Well, it is, if you compare POS and POT, they do share many similarities. Firstly, they both require the validators, like we talked about, to stake their token as collateral when verifying the transaction. So if the transaction gets validated, then they get their reward, and if they don't, then they don't get anything. And with a high stake increasing the chance of being selected, the main difference is the ranking and voting system used by the POT, followed by an additional verification by 1,000 validators before the transaction is actually submitted to the ledger. POS is more popular and familiar option, being used by a huge project like Solana, which we've talked in the channel, Polkadot, Cardano, and ETH 2.0. And when it comes to advantages, both system requires users to stake token instead of expending energy, which makes them both energy efficient alternative to proof of work. We all know that Bitcoin is under POW, but this is a main disadvantage because in the long term it's very inefficient and it pollutes a lot because it requires a lot of energy to actually have it work. And this can also work as a disadvantage since the malicious actors with access to a large number of funds can theoretically take control of the network. However, this is an unlikely scenario because to initiate a 51% attacks, for example, a malicious actor would need to own 51% of the token within the network, which is very, very unlikely and extremely risky for the attacker, especially with the more popular blockchain like Ethereum and Cardano. Now, on the other hand, POT, which is fairly new, which is why I'm doing this video on it, because a lot of people still don't know what it is. But POT also adds to the security layer by requiring each transaction to be double-checked by 1,000 validators within 2 to 3/3 of them having to agree on whether the transaction should be added to the ledger. Each blockchain network has a particular requirement tailored to the needs of the network, and many blockchains stick to POW and POS for their needs, while additional algorithms like POT and DPoS and proof of history are used by Polkadot in combination with POS to cater their needs and face new blockchain network. Now, I think POT has great efficiency and application that could be used in the long term, and we'll have to see how that will develop in the long term. But I think we are likely to see more usage of it in the future because it is far more efficient than proof of work, and I think, in my opinion, is more efficient than proof of stake. Now, Ethereum swear, for example, another news is that it swears that this time it'll actually move to proof of stake. But there's a date that date is in September 19. That's when those sitting like royalty at the top of the Ethereum blockchain say they'll finally move their proof of work based blockchain system over to proof of stake. And they've made promises before and have routinely pushed back the deadlines, but now they have a date. And so far, all those involved seems like they agree that this will actually happen, hopefully. We'll have to see how that develops, but I have strong belief that this could happen faster than you think, and Ethereum could likely move to proof of stake, which is far more efficient than proof of work, like we talk about, due to the energy inefficiencies that proof of work currently holds. But we'll have to see how that holds in the long term. And guys, if you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe below, and I'll make sure to catch you in the next video.